Started. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Excited for this one for sure. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenters today. Dr. Allison Roxburgh is an assistant professor of mathematics education whose work focuses on preparing elementary pre-service teachers to design meaningful mathematics instruction. Her research examines how teachers integrate digital tools, including artificial intelligence and digital math games, to enhance student understanding. She is committed to bridging research and practice to strengthen teaching and learning and looks forward to exploring these strategies with you today. Kaywin Cottle, an ISU TES clinical instructor and retired K-12 educator based in Southeast Idaho, brings a practitioner's perspective to open education and educational technology. As an ISTE AI Explorations Cohort educator, IEA Teaching and Learning Center trainer, and active participant in Idaho's Opal Plus AI community of practice, she works to bridge traditional pedagogy with emerging tools. She's also engaged with IKEEP, the Indigenous Knowledge for Effective Education program at the University of Idaho, reflecting her commitment to culturally responsive and equitable education. Her current work includes developing an OER focused on digital technology and the ethical use of AI in education, grounded in her experience supporting students at Idaho State University through clinical practicums and field experiences. So it's my pleasure to turn the floor over to them.
Perfect. Thank you. Hopefully, can you hear us okay if we talk like this on Zoom, or do we need to hold it up? Do we need to hold it? Okay. Oh, oop. All right. So Kaywin and I, we are working with AI with our pre-service teachers, and we have been using it to really help them with their lesson planning process. But as we've been incorporating AI into our courses, we've really found that students need a strong foundation of what these LLMs, or our large language models, actually are, and helping them to have that foundation and understanding, as well as being able to critically evaluate these outputs. So this has really led to Kaywin developing our tool that we'll be presenting today.
Thank you. So we're going to do a hands-on exploration of this LLM comparison tool. We're going to drop this in the chat for you so that you can play along with this in just a little bit. I'm going to first demonstrate it so that you kind of have the walkthrough first, and then we'll have the opportunity for you to test it out yourself. And the prompt engineering, we're going to talk a little bit about a scaled down framework for prompting. But if you're really interested in digging into prompt engineering more, at the last slide, we have a 10-page document from Google that would help you dig further into prompt engineering. But again, today we're just going to use a really scaled down framework. It's called the RAFT framework for role, audience, format, and task. So let me actually, I'm going to show you first before I put it into the chat. Do I have a few slides before the demo? No. Hold on just a second. Before I start the demo, Allison has a few things to say. Oh, I have a few things to say. Actually, Allison's going to give us some cautionary tales in just a moment after I go through this slide. Not all models are equal. So when we're talking about large language models, you've heard many companies like Claude, OpenAI, Perplexity. Those are the companies, and each of those companies have models that they have produced and published for consumer use. Some models are free and some are paid, and these models are coming out really quickly. They are releasing new models on a very rapid pace. This is not like our older digital technology where we had to wait 18 months or so before we got the new version. No, these models pop up weekly. And so it's really hard to keep on top of all of the language models and what's happening. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the divergent paths that are taking place since December. in just a few minutes, but today we are going to talk about the standard large language models, those that have been around about 2 years, but they have been revised and updated and keep growing. So for a large language model, they were trained on data. And most of the data that they were trained on was culled from the internet. Some of it was done unethically, and that's a huge debate in AI, in artificial intelligence, is where is the data coming from? Did the people that the data that you took the data from to train your model, did they get compensated fairly? Did they even know it was happening? And in many cases, the answer is no and no. And we're going to kind of look at a little bit at some of that training, but not a lot. We're just going to move kind of over that. We're going to step across that and say, okay, we know that that's a problem, but we're not really addressing that problem today. But just know that we are aware, and you should be aware as well, that all of the large language models were trained on data that might not have been truly their data to train on. With the models, there are varying response styles. Some people call them personalities, that each of the different ones kind of have a different taste or flavor or personality when they respond or when they create responses or outputs, and different rates. Some of them will be really quick, instantaneous, and some of them will take a while to produce their results. In the last few months, we're seeing that those rates are actually decreasing, and it's much slower for some of these models that are coming out now to produce. But there's a reason behind that, and the reason is because these models are actually reasoning models. They're doing more than just predicting. They're actually checking their responses, and that's taking that extra time. But in addition to extra time, it's also taking a lot more tokens, and it's taking a lot more expense and a lot more resources to create these newer responses that are newer tools that we're seeing produced. Each of these also have unique strengths and limitations, and I've got a couple of charts, and I'd have several links for you to explore more about some of the different strengths of the different models and some of the different limitations of those models. And all of these have different levels of accuracy. None of them are really above 80%. 76% is kind of considered good at this point right now with the models. In addition, your context matters. So if you're teaching versus researcher versus doing administrative tasks, you're going to be looking at using a different model based on those contexts. Some models are much better in certain areas, and especially when you get into mathematics and complex thinking, most of the ones that you've heard of probably aren't the one you're going to want to use. Discipline-specific needs, definitely when you get into the mathematics area, to the science, and to the medical field, there are specific ones that you probably should be looking at and testing. With student interaction considerations, here at ISU and all of the 8 major universities in the state of Idaho, we currently have provided for us the Gemini LLM, and that is the one our students have access to. So that is the one that I have been migrating more to using. I started with ChatGPT. It was my first one. I was a paid user with ChatGPT until the first of last year. I dropped my paid subscription. There is a large difference between paid and unpaid subscription in the kind of outputs and the quality of outputs that you get. And I've seen that. I've maintained going into ChatGPT and looking at it 2 or 3 times a month, but I'm no longer a power user of ChatGPT. I switched over to Claude. I'm more of a power user in the Claude model at this point. I find it's more of the robust, all around kind of model that fits most of my needs for teaching and administrative tasks. I'm not a researcher, so it's not one that I would recommend for research. But for teaching and administrative tasks, I find Claude does really well. It also does a great job with code, with vibe coding. I'm a coder and a computer science person, and I find that Claude does really well on helping me fix code and helping me troubleshoot code. With institutional requirements, again, like I said, the only one that has been provided by ISU at this point that I know of is the Gemini. And so that is the one that I use for most all of my work. I don't really use it for personal too much other than when I'm in the car. Sometimes I'll use the voice command and I'll kind of chat with the Gemini in the car, just doing brain dump and brainstorming things. But for the most part, I use Gemini for my institutional work.
All right, so I'm going to be talking more about some cautions that we need to consider. So first, it's really important that we have this illusion of accuracy within these large language models or our AI, right? So it's producing these hallucinations where it's saying that this false information is fact. And this is really misleading to our users if they're not able to critically analyze those outputs. There's also content errors that we really need to be aware of, and it's causing some misconceptions within our mathematics because they're giving those incorrect conceptual understanding and procedures of the mathematics. It's also really important that we are aware that there's this unequal access for the different models. So accuracy varies, as Kaywin had said, between the paid and free versions of AI tools. So if we have students that can pay for AI, they're going to get better outputs than those students that did not. And so for requiring some use of this, it's really important that we understand that. It's also important that we have this digital access gap. And this is something we find with all technology, where if our students aren't access to high internet, right? We aren't able to use these tools. And this could really impact students in our rural areas. It's also important that we identify that these outputs are going to have our bias because we're the ones that are training. And so there's these stereotypes that are going to be coming forward and amplified, as well as discriminating against, women and other race. And it's important that we identify this to know that this is what our students, if we're using these outputs, are going to be looking at and using within their work. And so we need to be able to train and support them in understanding what these models are. We also are seeing research that's emerging that is showing that this is actually impacting students' thinking and reasoning. And so it's impacting those cognitive abilities because it's undermining their problem solving and reasoning because they're quickly going to this resource and they are getting this quick response back without really looking at what that output is. And we're also finding that with students in K-12 and beyond, that we have some emotional intelligence and motivation that's being impacted because we don't have that human interaction like we used to. And so when they're relying and over-relying on AI, they're starting to not have the same type of emotional intelligence and motivation. And our students are really, if they're over-relying on the AI, it's really replacing the learning instead of supporting it. And so they're just taking this as truth, and then they're avoiding the actual looking at it and analyzing it. And so students really aren't questioning AI. And that's what's really important is when we're using this in our classes, that we are helping students understand and critically evaluate the output because it needs to be verified because this can be leading to that misuse of outputs, such as, they're putting in false information or they're plagiarizing. And that's a big one is if students copy this over and it's plagiarism, that's still a form of plagiarism.
Thank you, Allison. So I said that we're going to use a scaled down framework for our prompting today, and the RAPT is the framework that we're going to use because it's quick to capture and understand. So when you're interacting with the large language model, you need to let the model know what you want it to do. And you need to tell it what role that you want the AI to take. You need to have an idea of who the audience, the output is for, what format that they want, that you want it to come out in. Do you want it to come out in a image? Do you want it to come out in an outline? Do you want it to come out in a paper? Do you want it to come out in slide format? So that's what we're talking about when we say format. And then task. What is it that you want it to do? What is the action that you want from the LLM? The example one that we have here is that you're a high school teacher. So that's what you're telling the AI. Their role is going to be with expertise in American literature to create a lesson plan. So that's the task for a 10th grade student on analyzing symbolism in The Great Gatsby. The format is that you want it to be a 50-minute class plan, and you want to have the warm-up activity. So this is back to task, main instruction, assessment, and have some specific examples from the text with discussion questions appropriate for this age group. So you can copy paste this example and put it in for your prompt, or you can come up with your own prompt in just a few minutes when you're doing these. So you'll want to have a role, an audience, a format, and a task. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to that first slide to the tool. And when I do that, you're going to be accessing a web-based tool that I created that helps you go to 6 of these large language models and put in your prompt and quickly jump between the 6 of them to compare outputs. So this brings you up to a web page that I have put the tool into for the large language model choice board. Here's where you're going to write your prompt, or you're going to paste a prompt in here. And I'm going to do a simpler one than what we had with the English example. I'm going to say, create a lesson plan, 45-minute. I want to go ahead and give it a little bit more instruction. 45-minute lesson plan for 10th grade on large language models, what they are, and how to use. Okay. So I've got I haven't told it what its role is. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell it that it is you are a curriculum designer. So there's the role. Okay. Now I'm going to go down here to my first one, and I'm going to try it in Claude first. When the tool takes you to the LLM, you're going to be put in, if you have a login, you'll go straight into your login. If not, you can stay logged out. You do not have to log in to test these. You can use the free platforms to test them. And I will in just a minute. I wanted to demo it first, and then I'll walk through it again. So I'm walking through it first, and then I'll walk you through it. So this little down arrow here shows you that in Claude, currently I have 4 different models that I can choose from on the main screen here, or I can click here to go to additional models. These are the older models here. Those are the classic or older ones. These are the more recent and more up-to-date models. The one that I use the most is the Sonnet model, and that's the default one. So if you don't click on that arrow, you'll default to the Sonnet 4.5. And this is the one that I find is the most robust for doing multitask, doing lots of different things. So now I click on the arrow, and this one is going to be fast. This is not a slow LLM. This one produces its results quickly. And so you can see that it's already started producing the lesson plan. It's already giving me the objectives for the lesson plan, the materials that I'll need, lesson structure with the, it's using kind of a Madeline Hunter model at this, what it looks like right here with the hook activity. I could have told it that I wanted it to use the Madeline Hunter. I could have told it that I wanted to use understanding by design. I could have given it those parameters. I didn't. So this is what it came up with without my instruction, without me directing it. And then here are my directions. Yes, it is giving me a script. So there's a little bit of a script here. I could ask it to give me more details. I could ask it down here. I could say, can you write me a script for the substitute? And again, click on the orange. And now it's giving directions that would be a little bit more detailed for a substitute teacher. Less of understanding exactly the formatting of it, but more of a, this is exactly what you say, what you do, when you do it, kind of. Okay. Now that we've looked at it in one model, this toolbar is sent my way. I'm going to go back. I'm having to navigate on the screen at the front. No, not there. Escape. There we go. And then the choice board, I can choose. And like I said, ISU has provided Gemini for us. So I could try this in the Gemini model. And you see that it's very similar in the layout. So I would just paste my prompt right there. And this thinking model is the one that's going to take longer because it's more of a reasoning model. So if I want to switch and I want to compare it more apples to apples, more of the Sonnet, I would go back to the fast model and choose fast here, and then watch what kind of lesson plan it creates. And there it's laid out very similar at the top. It does it added a couple of things that I did not see in the last one. So it's creating some more thinking, deeper level things here. It's created a game for us to play in this model. And then I'm not seeing a script in this one as well. So I could also go down here and I could ask it to give me the substitute script. Okay. I'm going to show you just one more, and then we're going to give you the link and let you start practicing and playing with some of these yourself. There's going to be a few things. So this one is not quite the same layout as the other one, you can see. And so it's just like this one did not give as much detail for this substitute teacher. It just went straight into the actual lesson. It didn't give any of the background part. Okay, so like I said, this tool has 6 different models for you to go back and forth and do a choice word and test them out. The llama, that is meta. You will have to input a little bit of personal information in order to be able to use the llama. The other ones, you don't have to log in. You can use a free one. And Perplexity, with the Perplexity one, there are some free accounts that you can get right now for a couple of months if you wanted to buy or to test out the paid model. And those, like Venmo, if you have a Venmo account right now, you could be getting Perplexity for 2 months for free to test it out. Copilot is the Microsoft version. Microsoft one will require you to log in. You can't use that one without logging in, I don't believe anymore. And then ChatGPT, as I said, that's the one that I had for a couple of years that I paid for. And the ChatGPT one, I have access to both my paid and my free account because even though I paid and I'm not paying anymore, I still have that history. So those are the ones that we're going to let you test out. Let me go in and drop that link in for you. You got it? Allison dropped the link for us. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And Allison's going to be checking the chat. So if you're having any problems, let us know. But again, your prompt that you want to use is you want to tell it what the role is. So up here in your prompts section, what the role is, who your audience is going to be, what format you want the output in, and what task you want it to do. You totally can give it a lot more information than that, but that will get you a good start. And we are here to help if you're struggling with anything. Let us know. Okay, so she chopped it in the chat for Zoom. Do you have the, I'll just email it to you.
Oh, look right there. No.
And your email?
Marion.
SUSAN.
MARION.
There you are.
I sent her an email. It shows that it went through.
Yeah, just got.
Okay.
Yes, if you go to a search out video and click on the picture.
It's slow. So like, what I on the right, like, yeah.
So about 10 more minutes to let you practice. Let us know if you need anything. And Allison and I both, for stage 3, we actually give our students more than just these evaluation questions we gave you. We give them actual frameworks to test these models.
Kaywin, this is a little off topic, but I've heard in some places that it helps to use please and thank you.
In the past, I would say that that was very true. It's not quite as true as it was. We're getting a little bit more past that, but yes, that was true.
Okay.
And it doesn't ever hurt to say please or thank you. But as we're getting more into the reasoning models, into the reasoning stage, it's really not necessary. And no, that wasn't off topic at all. That was exactly where I see it. I'm not touching it. I think that one's a stink bug.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Cynthia. I think that one's a stink bug.
Thank you.
Are you timeless? You can keep this one back. Do it. You can, because that's what they're doing.
As you're working through these and testing out these models, it's really important, again, that we're looking at this accuracy, the completeness, the tone and style. So is that voice appropriate for your audience? So with your context, would this be appropriate? And that clarity to really make sure that this is like well organized and aligns with what you are needing. So when Kaywin was pointing out that maybe the script for the substitute teacher wouldn't be as well organized in one of the models as it was in the other. And then again, that relevance, excuse me, sorry. And really that specific context, like, is it saying focused in there, as well as is it going to be useful to what you need and for what your students would need?
Any questions so far? We're not seeing any questions. Any questions in the room?
I do have one, and just FYI for in my.
Okay.
In the past, I have used like one AI model to create prompt for another, for use of a different AI. So chat has been, I feel like chat has done a pretty good job of creating the prompt for use in Gemini. Is there anything that you got to be careful with when you're doing that? I mean, given that it's.
Okay, so the question or the comment is that he has used one model to create his prompt and then uses that prompt in a different model. And is there anything that maybe he should be concerned about or worried about? The only thing I worry about is with student data. And so making sure that I'm only using the Gemini model with student, if anything having to do with students. I would never use another model that other than the Gemini if it has any kind of student context at all. But other than that, no, that's a good practice. And I actually use several of the different tools in order to create prompts to build my Play Labs. So Play Lab is another AI tool that I use, and I use Notebook LM a lot to create lesson structures and things, materials. And so I use the LLMs, different ones, mostly Claude, mostly, in order to create my prompts. So yeah, no, there's not a problem at all with that. Just be very careful with FERPA and with student data. Hey, I hear we have about 2 more minutes for you to practice. Another thing that I use these for a lot is helping me with tone, with my messages like an email or with my posting in Canvas, and making sure that I have the correct tone, academic language, and that my steps are clear, especially in Canvas, helping to make sure that I haven't missed a step or just didn't give enough detail. One of the words that Allison brought up earlier was hallucinations. And in a lot of ways, because these are predictive models, I don't really think of them as hallucinations. I think of them as errors, as actual mistakes. And I think by calling them hallucinations, we're kind of doing a disservice to not actually calling it what it is. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. She said giving it more credit than's due, and I think that's true. Because with the standard versions that we're using today, these are predictive. That's how they work. They were trained on a lot of data, and they're predicting what you need or what you want, and they're predicting the way a weather person predicts. They look at the data. Some of the data they can see more clearly than other data. For instance, Claude is not good at looking at pictures or charts, or hasn't been in the past as good at looking at charts and images as like Gemini. Gemini is very good. And Gemini started as Bard. I don't know if you guys know that, but Bard was the first version that they came out with, and then it started doing things they didn't want it to do. They closed the door, and then they came back out, and they brought out Gemini when they opened up the door again. So that kind of brings us to where we are today in February. The standard models, such as the GPT 4.0 series, the Gemini Flash series, those are instantaneous. You saw that the responses are really quick. I'm not sure if any of you tried some of the thinking models or some of the thinking time ones. We'll ask you that in just a little bit and have you tell us if you did. But with the standard models, it's predicting, it's trying to figure out what's next, and it's trying to do it quickly and immediately. And these are really best for doing like summaries, emails, brainstorming, quick responses. The ones that we're starting to see since the fall are these more reasoning models. And these are taking a lot more time because they're thinking. They're coming back and checking their data. It's called a chain of thought. They're verifying their logic before they do their output. These we're seeing are doing better with math. Still not great in most cases. There are a few models out there, though, that are specific for math that are doing really well. These are also better with coding and with logic and with research. So when you're thinking of using it for one of those tasks, you definitely want to start looking at more like the Claude Opus, the ChatGPT 5, and O3 series.
And so we really hope that you've seen that not all of these models are created equal, and that you really should be choosing the model that depends on what you're using it for and how it really relates to your content area, as well as what you would prefer, right? Because there's AI models that I prefer that Kaywin doesn't, and I use that one a lot more. And so it's just what you prefer as well, because as you start training it, it does start predicting more and it gets to know you more. It's always interesting to ask your AI how it knows you, and it will tell you all the facts it knows about you. It's kind of terrifying.
We might want to pause and let them do that.
But we also want you to be able to use this comparison tool to really evaluate these models and help you explore the options that are out there. And there's new ones coming up as well. So just being aware of what is out there and what your students are using, because in reality, your students are using this. So this will really help you choose the best model that's unique for your purpose. And we today use the RAFT framework to help us kind of break it down and incorporate it within your courses, just because it's a simple framework that our students can use, but there are other frameworks out there. So whichever framework you choose, it's really just helping us understand that structure of our prompts really matters, and it will help us with those outputs. So how we structure our input is going to really benefit us with our output. And so these, again, just help with that structure of our prompts so you can be the expert user of AI and you're not just randomly putting something in, because that's what some of your students are doing. And so if you become that expert, then you can support your students in making sure they're using it appropriately as well.
So some things we would challenge you to do as next steps is to bookmark this tool, the link that we gave you, and continue to use it for future testing. Use the RAFT worksheet for different contexts, or try another prompt framework. And like I said, at the very end of the slideshow, there is a 10-page paper produced by Google on just prompt engineering. So if you want to dig deeper into that. And then talk about it. I mean, that's the way that we're learning how things are changing so quickly, is being able to share our findings with colleagues and being able to talk about it. And one of the things that ISU has done is created the FLC, to where we have a group that is coming together and talking about AI and about the large language models, and we're continuing those conversations. So let's keep those conversations rolling and keep talking about it, because this is not going away. It is going to be here. Our students are using it, and we need to be the experts, and we need to help guide them in an ethical and responsible use of these tools so that they are maintaining academic integrity and that their degrees mean something. So here are some of the resources that we gave to you. AI EDU is a readiness framework for if you're just starting your adventures with AI. There is one for educators and there is one for students on the readiness framework. Definitely recommend that you take a look at that framework. There's some activities that you can even do for yourself and with students. If you wanted to take a course and become certified, there is the Google Generative AI for Educators course. It's free. It's a 2-hour course with 5 modules, and they're only 30 minutes each. So it's something that you could do quickly or relatively quickly and get you a certification in artificial intelligence. And then that last document there is the one I've referenced several times today. Oh, final thing, I just in case things went awry today, I went ahead and did a example. So earlier when I did the live demo, this is one that I had put together just in case the live demo didn't work. So I show a Copilot, a Perplexity, and a Claude, the same output for this same prompt. So that's what you're seeing on this slide here, was just in case the demo had went kaput. Oh, the Google document. Allison says that I need to show this document, this 10 pages. Okay. So again, because we are a Gemini school, this one is around Gemini and around their DeepMind research. So it talks a lot about the Gemini and helps you understand better our Gemini product that we are using. And down here, get you to the prompting and how to do good, better, and best prompting. This is the acronym that they use for their prompting is give it a persona, tell it how you want it to act, who's going to receive it, what is the theme of it, and what's the structure. So this is the way that they suggest that you prompt your or engineer your prompts. It goes further into some use cases and some examples for you and some suggested ways that you would incorporate it. And then this is just like the demo that I gave you. And this talks more about the principles behind Gemini and how it's supporting those learning principles. And this talks more about the engine behind the Gemini and how that they've used a lot of data and research to build the Gemini. My students back in the when I was teaching 8th grade, we started using a game. And that game is actually the largest neural network in the world. And it is a Google game that is actually the foundation behind this. And it's the largest neural network in the world. And it's just a game. I'll show it to you.
As she's getting that, if you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Six.
I picked 6.
Assuming that's because those were your favorites.
Um, when I asked or did some research, those were the top 6 at the time. And so I chose the top 6 out of a list of 10.
What were the other ones?
I will give you a link and show you some more. Yeah, it was the top 6 out of 10. I'll show you a list of a lot more. And I would even recommend that if you're a researcher or a mathematician, that you look at the link that I give you for even ones that you've never even heard of. There are so many large language models out there right now.
I know about Grok.
Y-
Um,
I'm not going to use Grok ever,
no, why
never.
not?
Who built it? That's my reason.
So you like the people who built the other ones better?
I like the people that built Anthropic the most. I trust them the most. And that's one reason I use Claude the most, is because I do trust them the most. But as I said at the very beginning, all of these are built on stolen data. And I know that.
One of these great animations.
Yes, Gemini does a great job with animations. Try it. Go to Gemini and just ask it.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yes.
the images in the presentation actually were created by Gemini, the ones that were on caution. I asked it to make, I just randomly said, hey, make a caution sign with AI. And then the one with the student who's like zoned in was created. But yeah, Gemini tends to make better quality images.
But they're animated.
You can make
Oh.
them give this.
Plus, we, as the university, get that pro version, so you can do unlimited versus if you did it at a different model, you only have a limited unless you purchase your own membership.
Yeah, just still photos, but some animated.
We'll ask it to animate it for you. Okay, so this is the game that my students started playing about 4 years ago. And this is the world's largest neural network, the largest data set. And it's just called Draw or Quick Draw. And you get 20 seconds to draw something. And so what was it, bed?
I see ocean. Or party hat. Or computer keyboard. Or shoe. I see mouse. Or hot tub. Oh, I know, it's bed. I see line. Or skyscraper. Or baseball bat. Or marker. Oh, I know, it's candle.
And there will be 6 of these when you play the game. And and what we're doing
see
is we're
wishbone.
actually doing a data training
Or
set
leg.
right now. We are
Or knee.
training the,
Oh, I know, it's rain.
and this is how data gets trained, is human
I
beings
see squiggle. Or
put,
frying pan. Or cannon. Or flip flop. Oh, I know, it's binoculars. I see line. Oh, I know, it's spoon.
and this will be the last one.
I see moon. Or circle. Oh, I know, it's balloon.
So now this is mine. But if I go down here and I ask it, I click on the image, I can see what data it used to identify. So remember it said hot tub. That was the data it used to identify that maybe it was a hot tub. The bathtub, this is the image that compared it to see that it was bathtub. But if I scroll on down, I get to see all of these human drawn data points. And you can see that not very many people put the bed with the headboard to the left. Most of them did like I did and put the headboard to the right. Why do we do this? I don't know, but that's what the data set shows. And that's what it was trained on. And so if you play the game and you dig into the data, it's really fascinating to see what the data sets show. And which one was it that it got really quickly? Was it the candle? Is the one that got like in seconds? Oh, that one. So So see, it almost was a direct match. I was almost exactly a match to that one, but it was very close to the match as well. But here are some additional candles that it was trained. So that's how it is getting its information. And it's doing the same thing with language and just massive amounts of data, massive, massive amounts. But this one is Google, and it is the world's largest data set now because it's been out there for a long time. And lots of people like me and my students have played this game over and over. So it gets lots of data from our play. We want to thank you for your time today. We hope we helped answer some questions for you, and we hope that you'll continue this conversation with us. Thank you.
Thank you.